Y'all, thanks for visiting my page again, where we're gonna go and take it to a place that's weird. And before we even get into this story that I found on the Daily Mail, of course, I'm going to give you this one disclaimer. Please follow along with me carefully, because this one person has so much drama that unpacking this story alone is gonna be weird. All right, y'all. We are now headed to Texas. And in Texas, a young late 30-something arrives back with at his family's home with his mother and father. We can presume that based on things he's done in the past, that was the only place he got to go. So his mother steps outside, and her grown, almost 40-something-year-old son is sweaty like he had been doing something strenuous. She goes to greet him, and he stops her from seeing something. She gets impatient, pushes him, and behind an RV on their property, she sees a human foot sticking out. Okay, I'm building to the crescendo. Let me get to it because it already sounds bad. The closer she gets, she sees a woman who has been severely injured. Looks at her son. What have you done? Now, if you read the article in tone of voice, it suggests that she automatically knows that some things about her child aren't right. So what she does is run in the house, tells her husband, who calls 911. They look back outside. The son didn't jump in a vehicle and leave the property. He just took off running. Okay. So emergency services come, see the woman is in very bad condition. They take her to and airlifted her, I think it was an airlift, to a hospital where she succumbed to her injuries. She was a single mother of one child, and they're doing a fundraiser for her expenses. Based on how I read into this story, law enforcement were upset that he got out of prison because this guy had already been in prison and was sentenced to 40 years. Likely for crimes against children. But his 40-year sentence, you got to read the article. It doesn't say exactly what he did for that 40-year sentence, but you can deduce by what I'm about to tell you that it's about children. Somehow his 40-year sentence gets reduced to 10 years. He's told to register as a sex offender, which he refused to do. Okay. And come to find out that the reason he may have gone to prison is because he had been caught taking photos in a weird way outside of an elementary school. I don't even want to know what that means. This article was just vague, and I'm glad it was. This is just a nightmare. When arrested, I don't know if it was this time around, because he eventually gets arrested, and I'll get back to that for what he did to this lady and brought her to his family's property. Either this time around the time before he got the 40-year sentence, before this lady got in his life, he admits to the authorities that he was the one who also burglarized churches. Okay, this guy has a record going back to the age of 16 when he's accused of SAing someone. So clearly this is a very depraved person who didn't deserve to get out, because by giving him mercy after a decade rather than have him serve the remaining 30 years, an innocent woman's hurt. See, the crazy part is when the authorities found him after getting on horseback looking for him, what had happened was he was crazy enough to try to hide at the scene of the crime. So he may have gone back to where he tried to unalive her, or where he may have tried to harm her before taking her on the property. Because remember, when the mom found her foot hanging out and knew something was wrong, his mother, of course, she was still alive, but he brutally hurt her. His excuse was he put that much hurting on that woman because she tried to stab him. Here's why this story is important, because you guys know I don't tell you this just for entertainment or just for shock value. Whatever our justice system is in this country is extremely flawed, that we can know that a man, a grown man, hung out at an elementary school and was weirdly taking pictures of children, SA'd somebody at the age of 16 years old, burglarized churches, and refused after it was his fault to register as a sex offender. This dude is a walking nightmare of a soap opera that was walking around with freedom. My indication from reading this article is that law enforcement were not happy that he got out, because they knew who he was and what he was capable of. Had he been forced to serve more than 10 years of that sentence, I'm sure this woman would be alive. They're saying that this is a domestic incident, but won't go into the exact nature of their relationship. This story is relevant because there's a lot of people walking free right now that there's a reasonable belief that they're going to harm people, whether unalive or maim or SA or whatever, and they're still walking free. And yet prisons are filled with people, especially men, whom for decades some ambitious DA knew that they didn't commit the crime. And yet they're still sitting there wasting away, no previous criminal record, no sign of any kind of proclivities that would suggest that they even deserved a trial, much less to be locked in a cage. This guy is your worst freaking nightmare. And he was allowed to walk the streets. Look, I get that some people are going to slip through the cracks, but come on. With his rap sheet, he didn't slip through the cracks. He was released early onto society and went right back to the same old crap. Because what people don't understand is, and this doesn't pertain to everybody got out of prison. Again, I know of people that have gone to prison and they've gone on to have successful lives. There's the other side of that, of people who've gone to prison and they don't learn their lesson. Either they can go and commit the same, if not worse, crimes because they just gave up on life and don't care. Or that time being locked down gave them the time to figure out how to be a better criminal and get by with it. Because putting people away sedentary and they know that they're going to eventually get out like this guy did, just buys them more time. In the meantime, there's a child in Texas without his mother today. Because a person who showed signs that they should have done most of their sentence, if not all of it, got to walk the streets and hurt this woman and cause bodily harm that ended with her unaliving. I'm not saying justice systems will be perfect. Nothing can be perfect. You can't measure perfect. But some people were blatantly put in prison to set an example when they don't deserve to be there. And some were released from that cage to come out and be more of a monster than they were before they went in. So the lesson I want y'all to take is that some people that you lock down just need and deserve to be locked down. It is the only way to protect the rest of us. Rest in peace, ma'am. And I hope her child that was left behind is going to be okay.